All right, this week we got Mike Abdul Quawi representing 2001, and probably a little bit more than that because he goes way back with his perspective. Um, Mike, you can say hello to the Zero fans I have.
Killing me.
All right, where we at again? We good?
Dude, I think I'm good.
All right, you coming in clear over here.
I heard you say it goes back with the perspective.
Okay, yeah. You go back to the 90s with your perspective. So, you know what I mean? It's good to have you on, represent, you know what I'm saying? It kind of seems like an internal.
Old head here. Dude, this is. I'm having the worst Wi-Fi issues.
You want a laptop or your phone?
On my laptop. Again, this is usually all money for my purposes at work. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Looks like I might be coming in a little delayed, but fuck it. Yo, what's going on? Happy to be here, man.
Thank you. All right. I kind of want to start with, you know, me. I played with you when I was younger, before we got to high school. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, why don't you kind of tell people like what your introduction to basketball was, Maplewood, South Orange, and where you got started?
Yeah, for real, man. I mean, like you said, it goes back for me, South Mountain YMCA, right? Dave Henderson, RIP. He was probably like the first real coach I had. Taught the fundamentals of the game. I know he did that for a lot of folks in the area. A lot of guys that went on to play some meaningful basketball. And I mean, that's when it started for me, right? I want to say that was like elementary school. Met a lot of guys, and you, Doug Rubenstein, and guys like Garen, Rodney been through there. So that's how I got started. And, you know, there were certain leagues I played in and didn't play in. Like I know a lot of folks in Maplewood, if you were around our time, probably played with Immaculate and Mary. I didn't do that.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that.
Like everybody, I saw the shirts. Everybody had T-shirts, and I was like, I didn't know what the league was. You know, my mom, she was never forcing me into basketball, so it was like these things sort of I had to discover them slowly over time. And I want to say 7th grade suburban is when it really like kicked off, and I was playing formalized basketball, you know, for the next 6-7 years.
Okay. Um, so kind of explain to me now, even before this, I don't usually do this because, you know, it's usually for Columbia, but I kind of want to talk about, you guys had like a legendary like 8th grade team. You know what I'm saying?
8th grade team. So that's again back at it, right? I heard you guys talking about this. I think I heard Omar talking about it. I played 7th grade suburban. I was on that team, so it was 6th and 7th graders. And then 8th grade, I made the team, but Odin had started 8th grade rap. And again, my mom, she was very, you know, strict about certain things. Like she was just like, you can't play on 2 teams. Like, you know, nowadays that's like not, you know, a thing to play on 3, 4, or however many teams you can get in. But my mom was super strict. She was like, no, you're picking one. And so I actually wasn't on that. If you're talking about that legendary 8th grade suburban team, I wasn't on that team. I ended up playing 8th grade rap. With guys like Aaron and Stanley were on. They played on both squads. I'm trying to think who else. Dude, you
Was
know?
Sean Detroit playing both of those or no?
No, they only played suburban, man. I wish I would have been, because, you know, and things we'll get into, right? Like I was always a role playing point guard. I felt like I had 2 different games. Like maybe in the YMCA or at the park is one thing, but like when it came to suburban or high school, like my role was pretty simple. It was run the offense, you know, push the rock. Like I wasn't the dude that was gonna have 20 points in his name in the paper week in, week out. So it's curious. You know, I made the team. I'm sure I would have gotten some clock. I don't know what that would have been like on that squad, you know. So it's always like an interesting what if game. But yeah, that team was a beast. They dominated, and what I think that speaks to is just the strength of our class. You know, like I don't know. I feel like, you know, strong classes sort of come through every once in a while at Columbia High School. You know, the towns, maybe with South Orange has no lack of talent, but you know, we had a ton of dudes in our grade. You know, what would be the class of 2001 in high school, but and a lot of those guys transferred out, moved to different states. A couple went to prep schools. You know, so you know, we didn't even get the full amount of talent that came up to high school ranks playing varsity. Would have been interesting.
Okay. So going into your freshman year, I think Des kind of touched on this. You guys were on the same team. Coach Grant, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Coach Grant. I can't even remember who. This is why I was talking. It was interesting hearing you guys talk because I'm like, there's certain things I feel like, you know, just knock on wood, I had good memory about. Like, you know, like Des told it, like nobody knew who he was because he was living down in Florida with his mom for a significant period of time, and he came back up to the area. Uh, So like, yeah, I had no idea who this kid was, you know, and we were playing freshman ball, but I still didn't really get to know him that well because I don't know if folks remember this. There's no reason for folks to remember this. I only played 5 games as a freshman on
Mhm.
freshman team. I got moved up. I had a great, you know, we always Columbia plays Seton Hall Prep pretty early in the season. It's usually a December game around the holidays. I had a great game freshman year against Seton Hall Prep. Just, you know, comfortable. I knew a lot of those guys from playing camps over the summer. It was a 20-something point game for a freshman, you know, whatever, no big deal. It's a freshman game. But Coach Holmes in the locker room right after games, like, I'm gonna see you at 7:30 in the morning. You moving up to JV. So it's I knew who Desmond was, but he wasn't like he was still just like a mortal to me. He wasn't like Desmond yet, you know. To
Mhm.
me, I don't think he made that leap in my mind until the next year.
Is he? So it was kind of like even though like you know how sometimes like everybody else might not know, but we would know as players. Like kind of
Right.
like the whole Phoenix thing. Like you know what I'm saying? Like we Phoenix is kind of like legendary based off nothing that he did with
Like
Columbia.
Columbia, right? Like
Like you know what I mean?
everybody knows you played in the cage at Memorial Park. You know that he's a beast. You know?
So was that kind of how it was with Dez, like, or was it just like he really just wasn't that good yet, or
I think he was. I can't even say he wasn't that good yet. It was just to me he played aggressive and the game was real simple. Like he rebounded well for a guard. That's another thing. He didn't really know what he was yet. He rebounded well and he drove to the basket hard. I don't think there was anything. Some more of his like more finesse type game came later. Like again, it really was. I think you know his biggest leap was freshman year to sophomore year because he ended up again coming into that sophomore year. He played varsity. He was, you know, at the time, you know, I played, you know, I'm a freshman on JV. I ended up playing JV again sophomore year. So I really spent a lot of that year annoyed and pissed off. And here I'm seeing one of my friends, like, you know, he's playing varsity, you know, so you're happy for your boy. But you know, that's when he made his leap, and he was getting you know significant clock that year. You know, again, I don't want to rehash a pod you talked about, but that was a class of '99. That was a senior heavy class, and he's battling and taking minutes from you know a team that's got a lot of seniors in it, and you know I'm sure we'll get into it. Like you, kind of similar parallel that with you know being a freshman sophomore battling upperclassmen for minutes and playing time. So
yeah.
yeah,
So I just want so for right now, right? Your freshman year,
yeah,
you're playing for Holmes. I got him on tomorrow.
nice,
So kind of
nice.
explain to me what that was like, because I mean, not for just to keep it real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues that people had.
And I don't know why, right? It's funny, right? Because if you hear there's a story goes in practice, you weren't around yet for this because it was my sophomore year. I flipped them off in practice. So
yeah, he got
um,
suspended or something right there,
so
right?
some people will say I don't like the guy, but really, that was just like immaturity on my part. Like I always looked at him as a good coach, and I know everybody's got their guys. Like Chap said, guy. This other person's their guy, and I know you get a lot of credit for having a really good run as being a coach, at Columbia and building a program. But for me, he was always a good coach. He's old school. He wanted discipline. He wanted working hard, hustling, and so and he he bought into me, or he thought there could be like potential and there, so he always like pushed me. Like, I always received, there was no second guessing with him. So in terms of that, like I say, I'm a freshman, 5 games into the season, he brings me up to JV. So that's action speaking louder than words. I'm like, okay, this is a guy who thinks I can hang with this level. And I didn't have a great, I was coming off the bench, had some okay games, had some terrible games, but it was cool, still a good, experience. So I love with him.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I haven't heard is I've never, it's funny, for all the dislike or all the stuff you hear about him, I've really never heard anybody say he can't coach. You know what I mean? Everybody says he was a good coach. I guess, some people aren't for everybody or a person. Because I can speak, personally, he's never coached me. And
Mm.
I've had,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, we've bumped heads a couple of times, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he never even coached me. You
Yes.
know what I mean? This is him coming to my games. You know, he would come to my games 8th grade, try to get me, to come to Columbia and stuff like that. He started for me when I was in 7th grade. So my parents didn't want me to go to Columbia. I could have went to Seton Hall, or I could have went to St. Pat's, or one of those, St. Anne's. I was gonna go one of those, and I probably wanted to go. I wanted to go to Columbia. Like, what I mean? I didn't want to go nowhere else. I really, really struggled really caring about basketball outside of my friends. Because even when I was playing AAU, I would have good, AAU tournaments and stuff like that. And, it wasn't to say, it was like, I kind of really just like playing with my friends. So I was able to convince, and he was able to convince and let my parents take me to, Columbia. And, but he would come to my games, and, it was kind of like, sometimes, he's not for everybody. Like you said, like he was cool. I could understand that. I would laugh at a lot of stuff he said. It was kind of snarky, kind of jerkish.
Trying to push buttons, trying to get yeah. Oh,
Yeah. You
again,
know what I'm
I've
saying?
it off in the practice before, so like I know he said something to me that I didn't like in the moment, and that's how I chose to handle it. And a lot of people are gonna, it's the funny thing is people that usually bump heads or clash like that are people who are at least have some kind of similar traits, right? It's competitive people trying to win. Maybe they see about going about it in a different way, but it's interesting. Usually those kind of things happen. You realize that people are not that different, from each other.
Yeah. So I mean, I know. So you're there. You're a freshman. You're playing JV. You're
Yeah.
with who's on that team that year?
What, that JV team?
Yeah.
The guys that I remember, like, believe it or not, and he's a guy that didn't make a lot of noise varsity, was Fred Jenkins, man. Like, he was just, again, this is a JV team, so I don't know who's clocking, checking JV, but it's like Arnie, Fred, again, Desmond. We had a lot of talent. Like, so Stanley was on our JV team, I believe, Stanley Bernard. So Luther was on varsity, Aaron Davis, and Des Morgan. So we lost like 3 people from our grade was not playing. I think John, I can't remember if he was on the team, he wasn't the John Arthur we know yet, right? Like, he wasn't this like phenom that can, do a little bit of everything at 6'5". So the team was just like, it was a hodgepodge of dudes. I think Big Jew was on the team. right? Like it was, yeah, it was just it was a cool team, and that's the year Holmes didn't even end up finishing out the year, I believe. I think it was that year. He
What
he,
do you know what happened or?
you're gonna have him on tomorrow. You can ask. I think it was just something with, and like, don't you need some kind of like his license to with the board? I think something just like lapsed or something like that. Like you're gonna have to do it on tomorrow, so you can talk about that. But I just remember him. He would pop in and check in on us and be like, "Yeah, they're giving me a hard time. They're giving me a hard time." But it never worked out. He never finished out the year. I think we went into the JV.
Did Chap take
Tournament.
over or?
Chap took over, and that sort of began his little mini run there, and
And how was
everything.
that
All the
like
love.
playing for him, like going from Holmes to him?
It felt like in a good way, the substitute, the mean teacher is not with you, and you got the substitute for a while, and that just means like you got somebody that's going to relate to you a little bit better. Again, Chaplin is not coming like a disciplinarian. He's not as heavy-handed as Holmes was. He was coming in like your book. Where my dogs at? Come on, ladies, let's go. He's listening to the same music we're listening to. He was a guy, but and so, but it was a weird year. It was, again, keep in mind, I'm looking at this year like a failure because I'm not where I wanted to be. Our coach is gone 2/3 or halfway into the year. So it was just a very weird, random year.
So is that the year? That like the year Howard was his senior and all that?
Yeah, yeah, good. I feel like, and somebody might disagree with this, I feel like the odd number years were always pretty good years that were senior heavy at Columbia. I feel like class of '99, class of '01. I think your class I feel like was like pretty, deep with talent. I want to say going back to '97, right? Was that like Fran, Drew? Trying to remember those dudes. Tim. I think Keith Hart was that Keith Harvey's year too.
Yeah, I just had
Like
him on earlier
it,
today.
in my opinion, for whatever reason, odd number years, it's always had like a deep amount of talent. And so, in theory, Columbia should never really be like going through lulls. They should be just sort of like reloading every year.
Yeah. So and then that year, I remember speaking to Des about it. It uh was that like I don't know who they lost to in the counties or the states, but was that kind of like uh was that a good year for them? Like did they have a good record? Was it?
You, I know they won like something in the high teens, like you'd have to. I want to say they lost to Union in the states.
I remember
It's
I was
weird
at
because
that
like, I'm
game.
not on that team, like so it's really hard to gauge what the expectations were. I know Howard's on this team. They got Aaron Des. They got solid role players in Jake Forbes. Say what you want about him. Mo Mitchell was a good role player for him. Mo Hunter was the man. Like I think he wasn't playing the year before, so he finally came back, and it seemed like they had a complete deep team. Guys like Donald Glenn coming off the bench. Like, yeah, it was a tough squad.
And I mean, as far as like personality wise, right? That kind of seems like an odd bunch. Because can you explain to me like, did you have like, you have any experience with like Howard and I know you have experience with Aaron.
Like playing with him,
Yeah,
I mean, just at the practices at that point, I mean, Howard, I known him since like Maplewood Middle, right? He was that guy. He was like the first phenom I remember seeing. He's in middle school dunking, and it was just you're just sitting there. All the kids, fifth, sixth graders are just sitting there and watching this like seventh, eighth grader just go up and just dunk it, and you're just sitting there with your jaw gaping open, like, how's he doing that? So like, he was just always a super talented dude. I know he went to Pats, transferred over to Columbia. So I know the team, again, back to the team, the expectation. I know the expectations were high. I don't really like, speaking on it because that wasn't my squad. I wasn't in those huddles. I was still on JV then.
okay.
But, as a sophomore, but they were a good team, from my point of view.
And
And
how
like a
was
lot of Columbia teams, did not live up to, the expectation.
Yeah, from what I understand, I remember, or I just remember hearing, or maybe it wasn't true, but hearing. So it kind of seemed like it was like a good year for maybe a good year for Dez, maybe like a rough year for Aaron, possibly.
I mean, you can argue. I mean, it's the change, right? Like, ideally, and again, I'd love to hear this from your point of view based on your experience too. Actually, again, another where it might be a lot of things. Freshman year, I remember him, just having a really good, speaking about Aaron, just a really good freshman year. But then the team, as you come into that next year, the team has drastically changed. Like,
Mhm.
I want to say 98 graduated Carl Thompson, my man Doug Fresh. Like they had some hoopers, but like it was almost like a reload. So now you're restarting things. So you could I don't want to speak for dude, I don't want to speak for Aaron, but he could probably point to a couple things as why that that next year things weren't the way. He transferred out after that, right? He went to SS Catholic after that. So definitely some things that you know maybe he felt like should have been going in a different way.
Yeah. Was Keith Middleton on that team too?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Keith, like again, and this is back to like you talk about that side. Keith started games. He was like the point guard on that team, and you could say, I don't remember the details. Again, a class or two above me, but like, you can argue that's when Dez started stealing the minutes and the mentoring that he talked about happening was going on. But Keith was just funny, man. He's always that dude. I remember because I feel like you lived around my way, right? You lived on like Pearson, right?
Yeah.
Like Keith lived like pass over by Milburn Ave, and I lived on the corner of Valley, so I'm shooting on my hoop, and I remember he walked by one day, and he's just like, "Yo," and he don't know me, right? Like, I'm just a kid shooting in the driveway. He don't know that I'm like 2 years younger than him. He's like, "Yo, you going to Columbia next year?" I was like, "Yeah." "You trying out for the basketball team?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Keep practicing." Like, he don't know me at all, but that was just like his mentality. He just
Yeah,
had
I hear a lot of stories actually. I hear like a lot of weight
like
room
intense.
stories and
He
all
was
types of
intense all
crazy.
the time. Like, he was always like, "Oh man, you working out? You shooting up, putting up shots? Like, better keep it up." Like, however I was shooting on the driveway, he was like better keep going. I was like okay. I was,
Yeah, no, I heard a lot of stories about
hello
him.
would have been nice. Like, "Oh, what's up?" Like, ask. I did all right in eighth grade. I had a little game, and I don't expect the older dudes to like know the younger guys unless they really really making noise. It's usually the other way up. It's usually like the younger dudes looking up to dudes and going like, "Okay, like that's what I'm trying to do, or I'm trying to do better than that." Like, so, and like, it take like I've known you since elementary school, like YMCA, like to
Mm,
so that that makes it a little different.
yeah, so the next year it's going into your junior year now. Um, I'm not even sure I was aware of the expectations that you guys had, but I wasn't really a part of
You're
any
here
of
now,
that.
right? You're at Columbia at this point.
Yeah, I'm at Columbia at this point, but I'm playing. I start off. I play with JV.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and I just know like just remember watching you guys. It's crazy because it's like when you're younger, everybody else just seems so much older and bigger. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I remember just watching y'all play, and I just not really paying attention to it because I think I'm playing JV, and it doesn't to kind of explain like so your junior year now what the expectations was like now Bailey what your relationship with him is and like it's a new team coming in kind of right. You only have a couple seniors. You got G, you got Darian, I think O and
There,
Sloan
there
maybe.
were there were four seniors, and Sloan didn't really play, which is funny considering he's one of the few dudes who played D1
Three
basketball.
time D1 basketball,
Like
right?
high school, at least my time period. I know dudes afterwards did, but
Mm,
yeah, Sloan. So to answer your question, there was no expectation. We graduated a great class in '99. I don't think, Gerard Ohen, like nobody, he always played, but he kind of got more physical, like physically built and, athlete. He was like a good serviceable center. He was, he got the job done.
always
So
dunking on somebody, man. Yeah.
What?
Always dunking on somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just a beast, man. He's one of those kids in high school who are cut like they were a grown man. Olakune Olasiende, man, he'd been balling for years, so he was a guy who was ready. He'd been on varsity, he was ready to play. Darian Rutnerine, he was playing on the team, a man's ball. So like, but it was coming in. So let me how I come into play. It's interesting. You asked about my relationship with Bailey. He always, I never could understand like what his approach was. He always, I guess, was trying to keep dudes on their toes. Like I know in hindsight, I found out he told me coming into that year, like, yo, you're my starting point guard. G, I need you to take over things. But he definitely told Luther that same thing. Luther Bond. So that, you know what I mean? Like he's trying to create that competition or whatever. And the funny thing is, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, it actually opened the way up for you coming in. I started the year off with chicken pox. I'm a junior in I don't get chicken pox until my junior year of high school.
Oh man.
I'm
Okay.
literally in tryouts. I'm like looking at I'm pulling my shirt down. I'm looking, I'm like, what's up with all these spots? I'm like, yo, I think I got chicken pox. I go to the nurse and she's like, yeah, and I'm done. I'm like, I'm out. I missed all the tryouts. I come back, again, I don't think I was anything special, but I was a good role playing point guard. Like, I think I deserved to be on the team. I came back, I had like a tryout period, but keep in mind, like the season's already starting by the time I'm coming back, but I'm like on the team. Luther is starting 3 games into the season, like the holiday tournament, he breaks his arm, he's done for the year. So I'm coming back like not really in great shape yet. I've been sitting in a bed for 2 weeks with chicken pox. Luther breaks his arm. We're in a team. I think that's when you were pulled up, and what I remember about your freshman year, this is why I want to hear your take from your freshman year, sophomore year. You had a good freshman year for us. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, Eddie, like played confidently, hit big shots. Like I think it was Roxbury. All those Morris County schools start like mixing. I want to say you hit a game winner for us in Roxbury, like a buzzer beater for it. Like I remember you having big games, playing well as a freshman. And I heard what you said on the other video. I appreciate at least I wasn't giving you a hard time. I don't know if you said
Well,
you
no,
was
I think
showing
you
me
already
love.
knew me, and you actually give me like, see, you kind of like you and Desmond were like the vocal leaders on the court. Like when you came in, you always had something to say. You always take charge. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with Desmond. Like you would start pointing, you would just give me direction. You'd be like, yo, Eddie, here. I know one time we was playing my freshman year, I think we was playing Roxbury at home or somebody at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wasn't paying attention. I'm looking at the time, we holding the ball, you're throwing the ball to me. I get it, I throw it back to you. You throw it to me again, I throw it back to you. And you're like, yo, look at the fucking time, bro. Like, go. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And you
yeah,
give it
yeah.
back to me, you're like, go. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even see the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I go or whatever. I don't know if I scored or not, but like that's the type of direction like you was giving me. And you would give me like that confidence. Like you could take it yourself, obviously. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I remember like Bailey brought you up. He had a lot of confidence in you, and again, like back to me, like I wasn't anything special, right? Like we'll talk about. I think Harold took a little jab at me. I love Tippy, but like I was a role playing point guard. We'll get into senior year in a minute, but like I was never supposed to. I was brought in to run the offense, push the ball, guard your man. Like people notice Maplewood South Orange has tons and tons of talent. And so, you coming up, like I'm not intimidated by that. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just play my game. Like besides the fact that I've known you by that point for over a decade or a decade at that point, like I'm just like, all right, let's keep it moving. So it was all love. It was, I think that I count that year as the year we were getting our varsity reps in. Guys like Desmond obviously were killing it already, and I'm sure he had a good season. But as a team, as a whole, like John just started coming around. The story of Kev Martin, we got this dude who is 6'10", 300 pounds. Again, I don't know if you know this, he kept having transfer issues. he was at Union Catholic for most of our time in high school, and he transferred back and forth like 3 times. Like every time he tried to come, like something with the coach at his old school was trying to pull some strings and like put the kibosh on it. So like he ended up having to come back. The dude would be like attending Columbia and then have to go back, like went back for like a couple months. So like senior year, it felt like everything was coming together. We were just feeling good. We had a couple good summer leagues. You know, I felt like we had just balance. You know, everybody was healthy going into that year.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, junior year, I think your junior year, we end up losing. I think the university and the counties. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And they have like a real big boy, like point guard. They had like
Chuck Nate. Yeah.
Nate. He's another one of those guys who I done seen over years. Like Harold mentioned, I played a little PPY, played on a small fry team. Like so he's just one of these guys who just from the county you seen around. Like you can't miss a dude like him. And he putting in work, playing. We didn't have a squad yet then.
Okay, and then we lose to Union
in the States.
States.
I remember that. I remember that because Bailey was again tinkered with the lineup, and I don't know if he did this with you or your class, but like he would just he would I don't know, he would maybe he felt like it would be for a better matchup or whatever. But I remember we had a certain starting lineup for the majority of the year. I want to say it was like me, Dez. It was Darian for a while at small forward, but then like Stanley Bernard, Doc, he ended up the year starting, and then O and Gerard. Going into like the postseason, Coach moved Dez to point. He had John in there again. So by the end of his junior year, like John is like looking good. He had John at 6'5" at 2 guard. He had Olakunle at the small forward, Gerard at the power forward, and then Kev Martin, who finally who fixed all the transfer issues, is starting at center. So it was like this, like it was a scary looking lineup, but it was like a lineup that we only been playing for a week. And like you said, yeah, we lost. I remember we ended the season in Union. It was a close game, but like early in the state tournament. What was your take on that as a freshman being on that team?
Well, I kind of touched on it with Dez a little bit. Like I was at first, I was kind of just happy to be there. I didn't think I was gonna get in the game. You know what I'm saying? I was just kind of happy to go in the warm-ups and do all that, and then like he kind of like just threw me in the game. You know what I'm saying? And once the first game I ever played, man, I hit like 3 threes, yo, that game. And I was kind of like, after that, I mean, because I was kind of like a little intimidated to like go to the basket because I was like, everybody just seemed so much stronger. So that's pretty much why I just stayed out and just spotted up and shot. You know what I mean? I didn't really try to create or go past people or like, you know what I'm saying, or none of that, because I was kind of like, I think the first time I tried to do it, I think that I felt like I was past the dude, but he was so strong, like he just like put his arm up. Like as a matter of fact, it was Dez in practice. Like in practice, I realized like I would try to go past him and he would just put his arm up and he was so damn strong. I couldn't even, I'm like, I'm past this guy. I can't even get past him. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that was kind of, but then looking at the team, I kind of like, I don't know, like I said, man, it wasn't really that welcoming, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think G and D and Darian, and Sloan, I already knew. They knew my sister, so like I don't know. I don't think they really didn't act like they cared too much.
It's like unfortunate too, right? You felt that way because, I don't know if there's a hot take, right? But going back, if I had to look at the three amigos or to look at you, Russ, and Phoenix, I think I would have had you pick last for being a freshman on varsity out of those three. So like you're there, you end up being a freshman on. It was like for me, it was like all right, and you played well. So I was with it. I was like, all right, let's go. This makes us a better team. Like, nothing off my plate. Like, let's go with it. So again, and I know this is your show, but I want to know from your point of view going into your sophomore year. I feel like you did not have as good of a year. I want to know your point of view Am I wrong by that? Do you feel the same? And if so, why?
Well, I mean, I didn't. I don't think I played pretty good against Seton Hall. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
both my times playing against Seton Hall, my freshman and my sophomore year, I played pretty good. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was kind of like I didn't get the time, bro. Like I didn't like he didn't. Luther had came back. You know what I'm saying? Mike had. I mean, you obviously like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You guys to do anything. Then you had like Dez was already Dez, John. So and I can't remember who else he was actually even
It
played
was a
for.
crowded team. It was a crowd. I compared like so how I say I was a sophomore on JV again after playing my freshman year. Like, and again, you're on the teams, but it's just not quite the same. I'm on JV again for a second year. Like, I feel like I'm good enough to play varsity, but it's a crowded team, right? Like you should obviously, in my opinion, got more playing time as being somebody who proved himself as a freshman. But like when somebody like me is looking like, oh, I should be on varsity. It's like, whose spot are you taking though, right? Like who I'm not going to take like Aaron's spot, Dez's spot, Keith's spot, um, Donald Glenn's spot. He was just like
I
this.
mean, yeah, I didn't come in really expecting to start or none of that, or even to even. I mean, I guess I kind of like honestly after like we had scrimmage and I wasn't really getting that much time. We were scrimmaging. We played like we scrimmaged like Scott. I didn't really
Yeah,
get in. We
Scott's
scrimmaged somebody, and then I think we played Morristown maybe the first time of the game, and I came in. I didn't really get that much time. Had one shot because I would have like selective shots. I would get like 2 shots or 3 shots, but I would knock them down. Like you know what I'm saying? I came against Morristown. I had one shot. I missed. You know what I mean? And then he kind of just took me out after that. And after that, I was like, well, I'm not really getting that much playing time. I had really actually transferred, to keep honest with you. I had transferred before the season even started.
Did
Like,
you?
yeah, I transferred to St. Peter's, and I was in the school, bro. I played with them for all summer. You know what I'm saying? Coach loved me. I love that. Like, you know what I mean? He was just like, yo, this kid could shoot. You know what I mean? Nick Hamilton was there. I don't know if you remember him. He was
He was
on the
on my
team.
seventh grade suburban
Yeah,
team.
like you know what I'm saying? They was treating me over there like a superstar. I felt great. Like, and they had like a top 20 team. And he was just like, yo, you can come in. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, I just want you to put it up. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, because I went to like a workout, the first 2 workouts, and I just didn't miss, bro. Like, I was just shooting. Like, you know what I mean? I was spotting up. I was shooting. He was just like, yo, I love that. That's how we play. You know what I mean? Get the ball up the court, just spot up, and we find you. And I was like, all right, cool. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Then the dude, after being in the school for a week, dude comes up to me and tells me I didn't pass the test. So I got to go back. And they start like a week or two before Columbia. So nobody even knew.
That's so
Except for
funny.
Bailey. Bailey's the only person that knew. He came, brought me into the office, like, you transferred. And I was like, I didn't transfer. Because I didn't want to piss him off.
I'm here, right? I'm in your
Yeah,
office.
right.
Right?
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Really?
I was like, I ain't transfer.
That's
You know,
funny.
I'll come back here, whatever. I'm Columbia all the way, buddy. Let's go. You know what I mean? So when I came back and then I wasn't getting much playing time, I couldn't really transfer again. So it was kind of like, well, you know what? Fuck it. I just really stopped caring. Not caring, but like, it was kind of like,
It's a little deflating, right? I hear you. Like
yeah.
I proved all the. And that's what we talk about. Like I never could read barely. Let me use this as a way to segue into senior year. You talk about the that Morristown game. That was the first game of the year.
Mm,
It's starting me, Luther, Dez. So it goes with 3 guards, John and Kev Martin. Probably we smacked the hell out of them. Probably like one of the best games statistically across the board. Like I had like 8 and 9. Like that was like me, like 8 point, like not like 8 and 9. John had 15, Lou had 15, Dez had 20, Kev Martin had, I joke, yeah, 20 and 20. Probably a lot of missed shots and getting his own rebound back. But like, we smacked them. And that was our lineup for like the first couple games of the season. I had a bad first half of the Seton Hall game. Harold Tibby talked about, how we were up and just lost it in the last 2 minutes. But like, I didn't get any tick that second half. I remember that. I had like in the first half, did not see the court. And I remember after that, Harold started over me. So Harold started, so I guess he moved Luther to the point like full time. Dez, Harold, and it was a good lineup. I loved it. We would 20-4 on the year. He talked about this. Like, I laugh. It's like, what 20-win team, I don't have anything to show for it. I got no conference championship, no county, like 20 wins, and that's like all I got, just like that in a yearbook. So it was, yeah, like to the point of you, like it was a tough line because I feel like everybody was healthy. It was a packed team. We only had we had two juniors and two sophomores on the team. I think it was Harold and Ramon for the juniors, and you and Phoenix on the team. So it was just like, I don't know, it was just a packed squad, no room for anybody to have error. Like I had 1.5, and I got moved out the starting lineup for like seven games.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And that's pretty much kind of the way I looked at it. I was kind of just like, well, I'm a sophomore anyway, so forget it. When they call me not come in, I'll just come in. I mean, I'm open, I shoot. If I don't, then I was never one of those dudes. Like, I was never angry. Like, I was never one of those dudes, like Phoenix. I remember that year. He was pissed off. Like, he would be, I know one game he was crying. We played against East Orange. He didn't get that much playing time. And I was just like, I just remember looking, I'm like, yo, bro, what's up? Like, he's like, yo, man, fuck Bailey, man. I'm like, yo, bro, like, fuck it, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? We got 2 more years left or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was kind of my mentality, honestly. Like, I didn't really, after a while, just kind of like, fuck it, man. What can you do, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's a good way to like not, right, to not be like upset about it. But I mean, y'all had talent, like y'all could ball. Like it was, you would think or hope that there was a way to figure out how to make that work, right? Like more talent should not be a bad thing. Like having talent up and down the roster should be a great thing.
I remember I started getting a little burn after the Senior Hall game because I played real good that game. I hit a couple threes, I think, and then we played. I don't know if you remember this game. We played Randolph. Actually, I didn't get no burn after that. So yeah, we played Randolph the next game.
At Randolph? Are you talking about the at Randolph?
We almost lost
that game. We almost lost that game.
Yeah.
Early in the season, we were for context. I know you talked about that. We were preseason ranked like 13. And like I think we never went higher than like 12 or 11 throughout the season, but smacked the first couple games, and then Randolph, we almost blew it on their court.
Yeah, I remember Bailey put me. I don't think I played the whole game, honestly. I think he just put me at the end. Like he's like, yo, I go in for Luther and play defense on point guard, whatever. I was just like, what? Like, all right, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just did it. But I remember I was about to be beat. Like, we was about to lose because he was gonna go right past me, yo. I forgot what happened. He did something, and his teammate was kind of like an idiot because he dribbled right into John, but didn't see John. John ended up plucking it from behind, taking it, dunking it in one at the buzzer, I think, right?
It's exactly what happened. Like he dunked it with like a second left, and like I think we were either down. I don't think we were tied, but I just remember going like, "Oh crap, we almost lost it." It was like third game of the season, and we supposed to, be this ranked spot. So that was like our little scare early on. And I think to your point, like, I think a lot of frustration was just maybe folks didn't feel like, I never felt comfortable, right? Like Tippy made a little jab at me, right? Like I always felt like I showed up the games. I'm gonna give examples in a minute. It's just like, it's a team with 3 McDonald All-American nominees on it. Like, you know what I mean? We got John, Dez, Kev. Like my role is to, again, push the rock, run the offense. Like I'm not in there to score 20 points. And to be honest, I if I felt like I shot the ball twice, I'm getting yanked out the game. So I'm like, let me just, do what I do. But I felt like there was definitely games where jumping ahead in the season. Do you remember the East Orange game at their place?
Yeah, we they had beat Seton Hall, right? And
they
then
beat Seton Hall on a Tuesday.
That's the game Beans was crying.
Oh, it was that one. He was. So keep in mind, I got yanked out the starting lineup, 6, 7 games before that. I'm playing, so I'm coming off the bench. I remember they were hyped. They had a DJ in the gym and packed. They playing, and again, that's why I kind of like took a little I took a little smirk at the comment because I felt like Harold know me from my PPY days. Like always step in. Like Luther made a weird like decision on a one-on-one fast break. He pulled up for like a 3-pointer, which is like only okay now.
Especially in those days, yeah.
He pulled up for like one-on-one. I remember Bailey grabbed me by the back of the collar and like threw me at the scorer's table. And again, I came in, just in the moment. I'm not dropping 20 points, but I remember I definitely ran that offense, moved the ball around, had a couple driving dishes to him, to Tippy, got a couple looks to Dez on the left wing, hitting jump shots. And I remember, because like I knew Brandon, who was like their shooter on that team. I knew a lot of those guys. So it's like interesting. I don't think I've ever was like shied away from moments. I just wasn't supposed to be the guy. Like I just had like, what was my expectation? So it was just, it was, but I remember it was like a solid game, but then I got put back into the starting lineup for like the final third of the season. But, it's that kind of puppet master tugging, pulling, tinkering with the lineup. Like it's hard to get your rhythm. It's hard to know like what your role is for the team, and because you never know.
I mean, he would do random stuff. Like I said, sometimes like he would put me in, and I hadn't played in like, you know what I'm saying, or he would just throw Dapo in, or like he would do wild shit like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then I don't know if you remember this, but what he used to do, man, he used to play them. Thank God he never did it to me. But I remember one time it's just Arnie that I can remember, but he used to put people in with 1 second left. You remember that shit? Like he would put you at the buzzer. As soon as you get in, the buzzer goes off. It's like he used to always do that. Like, let me get 1 second of Arnie in the first half, in the second quarter.
That. Might as well foul somebody, make it worthwhile, right? Yeah. I mean, and I know he gets a lot of criticism, right? And I'm sure a decent amount is warranted. I'm sure a lot of it's unfair, right? Everybody needs somebody to be the fall guy. In hindsight, again, we were a 20-win team that has nothing to show for it. So it's like at that point, everybody's pointing fingers. I'm sure us as players, we didn't step up and do what we needed to do. It hurts a little bit that it's 2 teams. We lost to 2 teams twice, so you figure like, oh, like why, like we couldn't avenge either of those losses, or we couldn't, So yeah, it's rough. It hurts when I think about that year.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of games stand out. Obviously, the Essex County game with Randy Foyer, Eastside. That was I'm still not. I mean, like I told Harold, I'm like, that just seemed like a slow death, bro. I just remember nobody. We were like the first game.
The state game at our place, or Essex County?
At Essex County, because we were like the first game, I think.
So I'm gonna give another example why I remember that game started, right? It was the first game. It was like the first weekend. You play the early games at your home court, and then you play at Essex County. So the gym is like not even a third filled. I feel like dudes on the team, calling out names, some dudes on the teams had jitters and weren't playing right. Like, and again, we're like, I think we go the first 3 minutes without scoring. I wasn't a shooter back then. Like, I think I gave us our first points. You check the tape. I don't know if anybody got tapes out there. I'm actually in the middle of trying to get some from our 20-year reunion, trying to see if I can grab tapes from the archives. But I think I gave us our first points by hitting a 3 at the top of the key. Like, that's not good. If I'm giving us if I'm starting the game off after like a 3-minute drought, hitting a 3 up top, like, as a team, we were just in trouble. And I think we, like you said, slow death. We just didn't look good.
Yeah, it's like we could never get our footing under us. It's crazy. And I remember like I said, he would just do weird stuff, yo. Like I remember after not playing Fred much, he just threw Fred in there, and Fred did some. He made me walk twice, airball. He did some wild shit, bro. Like I remember that. Like, and I just.
Yeah, he was injured most of the year, so it didn't make sense to. I do remember that because I remember one. That's my man, right? I want to be dumping on, but again, he was injured all year, so it did not make sense for him to be in this situation. I remember he had a play where he was driving. You know, Essex County is a big court compared to like the high school gyms. And he's like driving at the basket, and I guess he got a double team. So he threw it out to me on the top of the key. It like went over my head. Like it was almost a backcourt violation. Got to go like chase it down. And like, you know, again, that's not a knock on him, but it's like going into the counties, we should be like a fine-tuned machine. We should be refining the things that we were doing all year. And somehow it felt like adding new stuff, right? Like,
Yeah. Hold on, I think your mic. Hold on.
you know, speaking to adjustments, right? Like Kev Martin, 6'10", 300 pounds. That sounds amazing. But, you know, we playing East Side High where I think Randy Foy was the second tallest player. It's a team full of guards. Like we had the ability to go low. This is where games were like Phoenix. You know, our biggest guys should have been Harold, Doc, and John, like in the game. These are the games where like you guys should have like thrived, but we never played with those lineups throughout the year, and we never threw it out there when we needed it. So it's, you know, again, that's a one way to look at it. There's a case to say we just shit the bed. We a bunch of suburban kids that shit the bed and didn't play how we were supposed to play.
Yeah. So we lose to them, then we probably go on another one of those runs. We head out to I think Seton Hall, at Seton Hall, and that game wasn't as close, and it should have been.
Nah, that game, no. I remember my junior year. I remember, so your freshman year, that game was closer than the senior year game.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, y'all talked about the Kev May story in the other video. Is another ask. So that was my junior year, right? So I don't know if you know, at the beginning of the year, they do like this preseason Iron Hills conference, like meet and greet. Like it's all the captains, like, you know, meet at school. And so Bailey just told me and Luca to go. He's like, y'all just go and represent us. And the dude is doing the whole big spiel about like, we love this conference, it's a great conference. He's got representatives from all the teams there, right? He's like, yeah, you know, this conference is good. We only had one incident last year. He's like that involved an ejection, and me and Luther are looking at each other because we know it was the Cavs Seton Hall like prep game. So we sitting there like, oh god, like I hope you don't call us out by name, because that was like the wildest thing I've ever seen in person. I was just there.
Yeah, no, that was wild. Like that was crazy. You know what I mean? He got his jersey into the stands. He was only in for like a good 25, 30 seconds, cost us 8 points. Like, you know, and then, you know, they was like number 1 in the country at the time, or number 2 in the country. You ain't getting back into the game.
That was a strong year for them, right? They had Tony L, Curry, Sullivan. That was a strong year for them.
Yeah, most definitely.
Tyrone, right? Was Tyrone on that year or the year before?
Yeah, he was on the, I remember getting in the game. He was always, because I remember, you know, I knew him through Coach Dave, so he would always be, you know, doing little shit to try to get on my nerves during the game, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and then we end up losing the East Side again. The last game, it's kind of pathetic, actually. Keep it honest with you. Like
I don't remember that one being close. Like I remember that one being kind of painful too, because you kind of know, at least for me, I'm like, all right, my high school basketball career is over. Like going into the fourth quarter, like knowing like this is not looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know. I you know, as typical Columbia fashion, right? Like we tried, after you get down, then we try to play hard and do all the other stuff and make hustle plays and come back. You know, and I remember that pretty much, but then after that, it was pretty much, I mean, we were never really back in the game.
The only thing I remember about that game is John had a nasty block. I don't remember if it was Foy or not. It may not have been, but John chased somebody down. They tried to finger roll it, and he might have goaltended it, but he sent it into the third row. Again, it was like too little too late, but I just, you know, I know y'all shouted John out and just like his skill and potential. Like I remember, it was just one of those moments where in the middle of this game, where I know we're gonna lose, I was just like, oh, I was like it's like freakish like athletic ability.
Yeah,
What
so
he
let's
did.
talk about that, right? So, you know, like a lot of conversation on Facebook about, what we kind of did on the last week with Dez and Rodney and with H and with O, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and name of who's your top three guards of Columbia that you've seen with your own eye. I don't want you to name people like, if you didn't see Jamil, don't name them, but that you've
Yeah,
seen with
I
your
only
own
seen him at the Derek tournament, right? And I don't even know if he was in. I mean, I guess he was in high school by then, yeah. But I mean, good question, right? Honestly, like Dez is on there that I've seen with my own eyes. Dez, Keith Harvey, just felt like he was just a bucket always. Like just only guards I'm naming.
I mean, yeah, we'll go to the big men later, but
Again, I felt like early on. I felt like it was a lot of role playing dudes, right? I guess I got to give it up to Aaron, right? That's my man. He's in my class. He was a freshman. You know, it's so easy to forget about him because he transferred out early. He transferred out after his sophomore year, but he was a freshman putting in work. Um, Sophomore getting the minutes playing, and then I know this don't count, but like when he went over to Essex Catholic, he was beast, man. He had a game in the what do you call it, Tip Off Classic at Seton Hall, almost beat St. Pat's. Had another game where he was going against Lenny Cook. Like he put in work, man. Like so, those are my three.
okay. And top three big men.
Sorry to anybody that's I left off. Oh, top three bigs. Again, this is gonna be it's weird, right? Again, from just who I've seen playing. Um, I'm gonna go Mo Hunter just because he's one of these dudes where I think he'll even admit he didn't play up to his potential, but he was just a problem for people. He was just a problem at all times. Uh, I'm gonna shout John out because again, another dude who just the potential. Like you said, he didn't play freshman year. He barely played sophomore year. His like the jumps he was taking, like he was a D1 athlete. Just didn't work out for him that way. But I'm biased. That's my man. He's one of my closest friends. But just I'm gonna give them. He could play inside, outside. He was a problem. And then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna throw this one out here, just like fresh. I'm gonna throw Doug Thompson out there. Like it's funny. I'm a freshman. I can't really remember what position he was playing, but I remember as a freshman watching him as a senior. It seemed like everything he got was a dunk. Every game he had a putback dunk, fast break dunk. Like that's just what I remember. And so just to me, he was just like a problem for opponents on that team.
Okay. Now, as far as the most disappointing player that you've seen come through Columbia, right?
Most disappointing player.
Let's just say John in Phoenix probably got the most votes. John Phoenix.
Well, it's so right. It's such a sad title, but like first off, right? Like life happens, right? Like everybody, there's a reason why the league is impossible to get into, and like everybody can't be, you know, playing in a Power Five conference, D1 basketball, right? Um, I'll just to throw a different name out there, right? So I'm not dumping on everybody. I'm gonna say Kevin Martin just for the fact that he had things God given that we didn't have, right? I'm sure there's a lot of us, you, me, a lot of people that wish they were damn near 7 feet and had some muscle on them, right? And he was able to have a nice little little post-college career for himself, which is awesome. But you know, at the time, you're probably thinking like, this guy's potential is the league. You know, if you just you can walk and chew bubble gum, you got at 7 feet tall, you got a shot. So you know, again, I'm talking about a dude who played almost a decade of pro basketball afterwards. But that's my pick. I'm gonna pick on my man a little bit and say who's the most.
All right. So next, I'm gonna go to some questions. I'm gonna say a sentence. I just want you to finish it off for me as best as you can.
I love this game.
All right. All right. So, oh no, you can't do that. I was about to say something I said in the last one, but I forgot that wouldn't apply to you because you never saw any of them play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what I remember the most about my senior year at Columbia High School is
the bus rides. And that's so like vague. Can I elaborate on it? It's supposed to be a quick answer.
Well, you can elaborate because that was actually my next one. That was the next fill-in. But go ahead.
I'm killing your game. But I mean, bus rides is just like they were always, you know, we won 20 games, so there were more positive moments than negative. So we were, you know, we were fun. I felt like we always had a target on our back. That's just what it is when you're like a ranked team. We were, again, 12th ranked for the majority of the season. So there was always this, we were playing around, and then you know, there'd be this moment of seriousness. Everybody, CHS, you know, jumps out the back of the bus. You hear the alarm go off. Omar said this in your video, and I actually remember that. And I wanted to speak on him. So I'm fucking up your game. That JV team that year was nice. I remember it clear. I had the most fun watching that JV team before our games. Like they were tough. He's a dude who I don't think Omar should have been on that team. I told you I wanted to speak on his game a little bit. I felt like, again, you talk about like, oh, whose spot is he taking? I don't know, but like I thought Omar should have been on varsity that year, man. He was a big man who was like agile, could play out a little bit, was faster than a lot of folks. Like, yeah, I remember that. And I remember he caught like a little banger out in like Morris Knowles or something. I can't remember if it was pregame warm up or in the game, but he just caught a little banger. I'm fucking up your game. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. It's for you, bro.
It's good. Just showing love, man. I remember that. Go ahead.
No. All right. The funniest thing to ever happen during the Seton Hall prep game was
during the Seton Hall prep game. That last sad moments. I don't know if it's a Kev May incident. It's got to be the Kev May. Like to see somebody in supposed to be one of the biggest games of the year get ejected, throw their jersey into the crowd, like had to be that. Not too many fun moments playing them. Like Dad said, like I'm 0-8 against Seton Hall through my career. So,
all right. The toughest player I played against in the Columbia High School uniform was
Randy Foy. Like toughest opponent or toughest person who was on the opponent, Randy Foy. Like I think I'd seen him around before. Some like, you know, like I said, I played PBY, some other like AAU type things. But by the time we got to that Essex County tournament, senior year, I could dunk. I could 1 foot off a break, you know, 2 steps, one-handed. I can like put a dunk down. So, you know, I'm 5'9" for context in high school senior year. This dude, like, so I would jump, and I remember like I stopped midair. He just kept going. Like I never felt more like physically like just like somebody was more physically imposing than me. I'm like, I just jumped the highest I can jump, and I just watched somebody jump another foot higher and pull down a rebound. So like, it was him. It was just all over the place and just smacked the shit out of us.
The funniest thing I remember about Columbia High School practice was
probably something Chaplin related, man. Like he just always was the upbeat dude. And again, he wasn't my head coach by that point, but he just always he just Chap always had a different lady at the game. He just always he was a character, man. Like he just
Do you remember anything in particular about the practices? Because I would tell my kids when I was coaching all the time about the practices. Like, they were a little different. They were like, he ran a lot of football drills, a lot of physical.
A lot of drills, not a lot of like. There was one game I'm trying to remember. I feel like I don't remember any particular. I remember like we didn't. I know you guys talked about like game planning and preparing. I felt like we didn't do a ton of that in practice. It was maybe, I think the East Orange game actually is the one game we did that for when they beat Seton Hall on a Tuesday. I remember we were running just some defensive sets that ended up, like, I remember when and I don't think we were being told that, but I remember in the game, and I'm like, as we're using, I'm like, oh, okay, like we're trapping their guards on the wing, forcing them over top with passes, and like I remember, we were working on that in practice, and that ended up, in a couple turnovers for us in the game. But the prep it was more drill based. It wasn't game planning opponents.
Okay, I need a story on James Bailey.
James, the best story. You hear the one where he got hit by the basketball?
Nah.
You remember this? I always used to be a guy like doing impersonations of him because he's like, hey, what are you doing? Come on, hit them all, like running, like
hit them all.
Lazy. Come on, lady. Come on. Well, not ladies, it's chat. Come on. Yeah. I remember he was talking shit. Like he was talking like mad shit to us, and Chaplain or somebody was like throwing a ball to restart a drill, and he was talking shit to us, turned around, and the basketball like hit him in the face, and he had them thick ass glasses on. The glasses went flying and then like slid across the court like right at our feet. And again, he was just talking shit to us, trying to get us to do whatever drill harder. And I think I lost. I think I was in tears. I couldn't go on, man.
Do you remember that time in practice, man, we had where he was just like, I don't know where he would come up with some of this shit, bro. Like, I remember one time he was trying to make us run a blast. A blast was up and down.
Yeah.
Counted as one. So he was trying to make us run a blast in, I think, 5 seconds. Some dumb shit. Some shit that he knew that we couldn't do. You remember that shit?
He wants us to break world records in the whole practice.
So he's trying to get us to go up and down. And he's like, don't tell me it can't be done. I've seen it done. And nobody ever made it. Nobody made it. He made us run that shit maybe like 10, 11 times.
Maybe Michael Johnson at the Olympics. Nobody you coached did this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was like, so, and then like Fred, right? Because one thing he would do is he would just try to make like a man out of you. I don't know. That was like his number. I felt like that was his number one agenda, was to try to just make. I think his number one thing was he hated getting bitched in the game was his number one. He didn't care about breaking press. He didn't care about.
Used to be like, who's coming in the alley with me? Who's coming in the alley? He's like, we fight. It was always the alley. He's like, we having a fight. I don't want you in the alley with me, Cowie. Who's coming in the alley? Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right, Cowie, you could come in the alley with me.
Yeah, like it just seemed like that's all he really cared about, right?
I'm like, that's cool. It's a basketball game though happening in the middle of it.
If you remember, right? There's a story about John, right? I used to tell everybody. It was the funniest thing I ever seen in my life, yo. We were playing, this is my freshman year, right? And he was always on John about being tough, right?
Yeah.
So, he was always playing like these mental games with John. So I remember one time he sent him down. John was like starting varsity, and he sent him down to JV to play like a couple games or whatever. Like, but he would come on varsity and then he would start. Right.
Yeah,
So,
you remember that, right?
yeah.
I remember that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like coming in the senior year, he never had like I was consistently on varsity. Like he would have him like play a couple, back up. I mean, look, that's my man, right? Like I've known this dude since fourth grade. He barely raises his voice. Like when he's angry, you barely even notice it. So it's like he's not gonna be him getting angry versus Dez getting angry are two different things. Is John still gonna like, you know, can he still drop 10 points on you like in the blink of an eye? Yeah. Can he like still dunk a basketball in your head? Like, yeah. And he's gonna be quiet as hell walking back the other way. He's not gonna say anything to you. That's him. And
Yeah, I remember one particular game, where he just I don't know who we were playing. Dude took the ball out of his hands though. Like he like snatched it from John. And barely calls a timeout. Right. And he calls a timeout. And from my recollection, from what I remember, he didn't say a word. Like he just sat there and sat in John's face and just stared at him for the whole time.
I feel like I remember this. Oh man.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, yo. But it's like shit like that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, he would just play mental games with people, like, and then you could kind of see like what he would want to. I kind of see what he was doing, kind of like he used to have us. Remember, he's a dude that had us running the stairs.
Yeah.
That was notorious. I hated tryouts. The next day after Thanksgiving, you had to run to them damn steps.
Remember I told you about junior year and chicken pox? I was so happy to miss the stairs that year. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm 16 years old with chicken pox at home, smiling like, yeah, putting calamine lotion on.
I feel like the only person that was happy to do the steps was like Dez.
He's because Dez, you guys gave him the flowers. Like his work ethic was crazy. Like it was business for him. Like I joke with him. I say this to him. Me and him talk often. I'm like, I'm not even sure you like us. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, he just had that mentality. He turned the switch on and like, it was like everything was about competing. And, those guys are few and far between.
And you kind of see like who was, and I think he was trying to like see who was tough enough to do it, like break you and shit like that. I remember in a practice with Fred, like one time, I just remember no offense, Fred, but I just remember he was making us do that. That was the same day he had us doing them 5-second blasts. Nobody was making it. He was just making us run over and over and over. Keep running to the point where it was just like, it was crazy. And then I just remember Fred like faked the asthma attack. Started turning red. He's like, I can't breathe. Can I go to Vanessa? I just remember Barry looking at him like, hey, go ahead, go to Vanessa, bro. Like, I just remember everybody looking. I'm like, I want to do that too, yo. But like, you know what I'm saying? It was just I knew what he was doing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I remember. Hold on, you evoked another memory, something crazy that happened. But I think it's back to like we talked about, like the tinkering with the lineups or the telling me and Luther we're both starting going to that was his thing, right? And maybe it makes more sense in hindsight. He was trying to build toughness. He was always trying to build competition, right? Like he wanted nobody comfortable. And there's arguments to be made, on both sides of like, is that the right way to do it? Is that the wrong way? In theory, it sounds like, oh, okay, yeah, of course you want guys competing, but I think what you've heard from players' mouths over the years is maybe some things that weren't so great about that. But real quick, it didn't really fit any of the questions, but you just reminded me. I remember the craziest thing I saw. Do you remember when Arnie broke his arm in practice? God bless him. It was my man. It was the grossest thing. I didn't like, he was going up for something in the drill. He landed and like.
My man, Mike Austin clipped him, man. Big up to Mike Austin.
I'm trying to remember. Do I remember him? Who?
He was a really he didn't play after his freshman year. He was more of a football player. I don't know why you would have known him.
So it was a
Uh,
JV. It was a JV scrimmage, one of those JV varsity practices. I just remember he
no, it
landed.
was tryouts, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yes, yes, it was.
And
So
JV and varsity trial together.
that's right. I just remember seeing everybody on the baseline that was near him. You know, like when Gordon Hayward got it, everybody like looked away, and he like ran out the gym, and like you heard the sound. It was just like brutal, man. This is my man's senior year. You break your arm. It's like
Didn't he come back? Oh no.
he came back like the last couple games. Like he missed the whole year. You break your arm in tryouts. That's your season, basically. You know, saying it's not an 82 game season like the league. Like yeah, it sucks. Worst
Yeah,
time that happened.
yeah, that was crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? One other memory for me, if you call, like my freshman year, I don't know if you remember, like Sloan used to have the crazy jokes, man. Like, right?
He was
So
the best. He was the best
Sloan
of
was
us.
Sloan was the funniest dude I've ever seen. So we were in the locker room, right? I was just when I was playing JV when I first started,
Yeah.
and we're in the locker room. Y'all had just finished practice. Chap is talking to us. You know what I mean? His back is to Sloan, right? So Sloan's getting ready. He's like bending over, like we're behind him. You know what I'm saying? So he just pulls his pants down. Right? He has his ass in the air, acting like he's looking through something on his back. And everybody, like, Chap is just standing there, like, he's like, what the fuck is everybody laughing? He turns around and he just gets like he gets pissed, right? So he's like, yo, you know what? Y'all just go, just bounce, like go. I'm gonna take the like he took him for like an extra practice. So we walk through the gym. I'm getting dressed. I walk through the gym to get my stuff, and Sloan is like running up and down.
I remember that. Yo, yeah, Sloan was a clown. That my junior year, right? Because those guys were here, but him and Darian were like the funniest dudes on. Like they made that year for me. That like they made that season fun, right? Like I don't remember too much of the basketball. Like I said, I remember you putting in work here, but like the bus rides, Sloan being freaking comedian, and Darian being hilarious as hell.
Now, this story I kind of want you to tell. I actually found out this story later on. I think maybe you or somebody else told me this story later on. Um, Doc, we're playing Seton Hall the second game of the season, right? Second, third game of the season.
Okay.
I don't even think I knew that he didn't play that day. That's how I think I got that much burn that game, or whatever the case may be. But do you remember what went on, why he missed that game?
Doc Stanley?
He came in the gym.
Oh.
And then somehow it was just like he wasn't there for the game. And then I think that might have been his last game. Didn't he quit after that or something? Maybe.
He
Possibly.
didn't finish the year. He didn't. The thing with Doc, though, and you know, let's put all this in perspective, right? First off, I'm loving that we're talking about this, right? We're talking reminiscent boys basketball. Seen some of the conversations on Facebook. Let's acknowledge that we are talking about a men's program that was in the shadow of a women's program, right? So, just to put things in perspective and frame in perspective, Doc, I think he just was like, look, he was living in the future. Doc put high school basketball in perspective, man. Dude was working, had a car, he was grown and mature. So like I vaguely remember that. He was over it because he just knew like, all right, whatever, like high school basketball, like I'm out. I just remember like he just was kind of over it at one point. Kind of like when you realize like, okay, like this is more stress than it is, worth my time. Yeah.
Do you remember the reason him missing that game being because he didn't have he's had some boxer issues or some shit?
I don't. I'm a terrible. I thought you were gonna ask me about the Randy Floyd thing. I don't know. You gotta ask somebody else about this story.
I mean, from what I heard, I thought it was you that told me this. So afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, he came there. I remember him coming into the gym, but then by the time we all get dressed, we go in like the third quarter. a JV game or whatever. We were going in to get dressed. Dude, like, I don't know if he found out or his whole box had a hole in him, or he forgot to pack his boxes. Some dumb shit happened,
So he
and
just
that's why
bounced.
he just left. It just never came back.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm gonna ask Luther to reach out or something because that I feel like us back in the day would have just played it, free balled it, but I don't know about that. But Doc kind of like he put things in perspective. Like by that point, high school basketball, like if he confirmed that, it would not surprise me. If he got there and was just like, I ain't got my boxes, all right, let me go home. Like, whatever. Yeah, he didn't give a shit.
Yeah, that was one of the crazy stories. But then, you know, before we ended, is there anything else that you wanted to add? I think you hit me. You wanted to respond to something H said or Omar.
I said it already. Like, it's funny. I thought about it. Like, oh, what was my, you know, did I meet expectations and not for like, I don't think I was ever scared going into a game. First off, your conversations were all good. Like 95%, I think, accurate. You know what I mean? Like it was all good. Like the Randy Foy story. I'll tell you that real quick. Like I didn't, y'all said that pump fake blocked it or shot and blocked it. I didn't, because again, back to me being I don't want to shoot the ball because like I'm like, all right, if I miss this, coach gonna pull me out. So I up faked it. This dude jumped so high that if I did shoot it, he would have blocked it with his chest. Like that's how high he got. And he got so high that his foot tripped over my shoulder. And it was like awkward. Like, you try to catch a dude, but like I didn't know. You either try to catch a dude or you try to stand still so you don't like cause him to like fall worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just awkward. And he kind of like flipped over me and fell. And this is the state game at Columbia. So he falls real awkward. It takes him a minute to get up. And I guess Eastside used to travel with a crew because they had as many people at this game as Columbia had. And I never felt more afraid for my life in a basketball game than I did in this. Like, some Essex County head will let me know. They used to have a dude, like an Andre the Giant looking dude.
With shades, right? Like a Spanish dude.
With like,
he's in the front row, right? He should take up like 3 rows.
He would drive an excursion with his like finger. And like I just remember like, I'm not trying to hurt this dude. I fucking up fake. He trips over my shoulder and I'm in my home court and dudes are looking at me like, yo, number 14. I'm like, yo, like, I'm looking at Foy like, get up, get up. Yeah, I think he just kind of like staggered a little bit, but just the story, like I said, he didn't block me, but like if I shot it, he would have blocked it with my chest, and that's just how high he got up. Like he almost jumped clear over me. And it was just a crazy, crazy play. That's all I got. I wanted to correct that story.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Well, it was good having you. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to have you again. You know what I mean? I want to kind of have you on with John or, somebody else.
Yeah. He was traveling back, man. But definitely do it again. Again, hearing his perspective, I love hearing about. Do a video. I was hoping we touch on it now, but like, do a video with your class, like the 08 dudes, because I want to know. I heard they were nice. Like, I want to know like how good. Like, I always heard rumblings and stories, but like I didn't know. Like, I kind of missed that era, that run.
Yeah, Jamil and Yvonne is actually supposed to go on today, man. To keep honest with you, but I had Keith on earlier. I had my other man Just on earlier, and I kind of want to like. I got video. Like, unfortunately for you guys, there's no video, but I got video for all of them. So we kind of like speaking on like videos that we see. Like like that happened to be on YouTube for like our Essex County semis and all that. So I had to spend some time on that, but Jamil and Yvonne definitely coming. They actually called me on 3-way after that whole situation popped off on Facebook with the with the conversation and everything like